Hello, and welcome to the Night Sky Reader. I'm here with a story to help you relax, meditate, or gently drift to sleep. Tonight, the Dip-Clock Constellations. Settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. I set the bag on the workbench, and the sound is softer than I expect. Canvas against wood, a hush instead of a thud. The room holds its quiet. One lamp, warm-toned and low, opens a small pool of light across the bench. Beyond it, the window waits, dark and attentive. I reach first, not for wax or wick, but for the glass. My forehead almost touches the cool pane. The night outside is clear, a deep cold blue that has nothing to do with temperature. I find one bright star, east of the frame, slightly above the latch. It holds steady against the surrounding darkness. I mark its position with a tiny pencil dot on the windowsill, a point of reference that needs no numbers, no counting. Then I turn back to the bench and lift the shallow brass dipping pot from the bag. It fits my hands like a warm bowl, weighty and calm. The pot goes on the stable surface near the lamp. I lay out 2 lengths of cotton wick, each cut longer than the final candles will be. I test them between my fingers, feeling for straightness, for the slight tooth of the braided fibers. My mind begins its usual catalog: time needed, steps required, a finish line somewhere before morning. The impulse rises familiar and insistent: measure, calculate, control the outcome. I notice it and let it rest on the bench beside the wicks, an old habit I'm choosing not to feed. The star through the window has not moved. I look at it again, confirm the dot, then return to the pot. I place a block of beeswax inside, a pale gold rectangle that smells faintly of summer afternoons stored in wax. The lamp's heat is not enough. I light a small burner underneath, the blue flame nearly invisible beneath the brass bottom. While the wax warms, I prepare the rack. It's a simple wooden frame, slatted, that will hold the wicks suspended between dips. I hook the top of each wick over a thin dowel, letting them hang straight and still. The room begins to fill with scent. Not the sharpness of paraffin, but a honeyed bloom, a sweetness that spreads slowly, like warmth from a body. The wax block sits in the pot, edges softening. My mind wants to hurry it along, to crank the heat, to get to the doing. Instead, I lower the flame slightly. The wax must melt gently, skin forming on the surface, then dissolving into gloss. I watch the block soften at its corners, the solid geometry giving way to liquid curves. The transformation is slow, and I let myself watch it happen. I step to the window, the same star. I mark a second dot, barely visible beside the first, a small pause captured in pencil lead. When I return to the bench, the wax has pooled at the bottom of the pot, amber and clear. The surface shifts from cloudy to reflective, becoming a small liquid mirror. I check the heat by holding my palm just above the pot. The warmth is gentle, not aggressive. The scent deepens, a note of honey and old wax and something green beneath it, like clover remembered in winter. I lower the heat further, keeping the temperature just warm enough to flow. I test the wax with the tip of a wooden skewer. It coats smoothly, drips clean. Ready. I lift the first wick from the rack, holding the top loop between thumb and forefinger. I lower it into the pot slowly, letting the cotton submerge completely. The wax clings immediately, a thin skin of gold. I lift it out in one steady motion, letting the excess drip back in a thread. The drip makes a soft sound, a small liquid note in the quiet. I hang it back on the rack and repeat with the second wick. Now 2 thin-coated threads sway slightly in the still air, cooling. The wax loses its wet sheen within seconds, turning from glossy to matte. I listen to the room settle around them. A faint creak from the rack as the weight shifts, the distant hum of the building's heating system, a low bass note felt more than heard. My own breath, slower now than when I entered. I walk to the window. The star is exactly where it should be, a fixed eye in the shifting dark. My pencil dots align. I wait, not counting seconds, just letting the star mark the passage. The cooling wax feels necessary, not tedious. When I touch the taper gently, it is still warm, the surface tacky but firm. The first coat is barely visible, a whisper of thickness. I return to the pot and dip again. Lower, lift, drip. The coat is slightly thicker now, the candles gaining weight. Each cycle, the drip takes a moment longer to release. I hang them and watch the wax turn from translucent to opaque cream. The transformation happens in stages. First the edges cool, then the center, the surface dulling as it sets. I notice how the heat radiates out from the pot in a small sphere, warming my forearms when I lean close. I step to the window and add another dot. The star has moved, patient and indifferent. My hands begin to find a rhythm that needs no counting. By the third and fourth dips, the tapers start to look like candles. The wax builds in faint ridges where each layer meets the last, rings of patient accumulation. I check the pot's temperature by scent and sight. Too hot and the wax smells sharper, thins out like water. Too cool and it begins to cloud at the edges. I adjust the flame in tiny increments, a hair's breadth turn of the knob. The heat on my knuckles is pleasant, a focused warmth in the cooler room. I dip the first taper, and as I lift it, a small wave rolls through the pot, sending concentric ripples across the surface. I slow my motion for the second taper, lifting it without disturbing the wax. Better. The drip is slower now, thicker, almost reluctant to fall. I step to the window, and the star has moved again. The shift is minute but true. Placing it just beyond my last pencil dot, I add another mark. A real measure of time, not an invented one. The night is deepening around the building. The city sounds have softened. I can hear the faint tick of a radiator somewhere down the hall. I let my breath match the slower pace and return to the rack. The tapers are cool enough to accept another layer. The fifth and sixth dips add noticeable thickness. The candles have enough weight now that I feel their slight swing when I hang them. The wax coats evenly, smoothing over the previous ridges. I watch each taper as it hangs, looking for unevenness, for spots where the wax pooled or skipped. One taper has a faint lean to the left. I wait until the wax is just firm, then straighten it gently with my fingertips. The wax yields, then holds. I resist the urge to check it again, to adjust further. The next layer will tell me if I've overcorrected. The middle of the night settles in. The building's sounds have deepened. No more footsteps in the hallway. No traffic hum from the street below. Just the small mechanical breath of the heating system and the soft tick of the burner's flame. The wax pot needs more material. I add another block, pressing it gently into the warm liquid at the edge. It melts more quickly than the first, the surrounding heat eager. The scent releases again, fresh but not overwhelming, like honeyed tea left to cool on a sill. I stir the wax gently with the skewer, blending old and new. The motion is meditative, circular, the liquid parting and closing around the wood. 3 more dips pass in quiet succession. My forearm engages slightly when I lift the thickening tapers, a gentle resistance that grows with each layer. The wax flows over the surfaces like warm silk, filling in ridges, creating new rings. Between dips now, I notice the smallest sounds. The drip into the pot has a rhythm that varies with temperature, quick and light when hotter, slower and more deliberate when cooler. The rack creaks softly as the weight accumulates, wood expanding microscopically under the load. My own footsteps on the floor are barely audible, a hush of socks against old boards. I feel the room's temperature on my forearms, cooler away from the pot. I touch the base of one taper and find a tiny bead has formed, a small excess drop that cooled before it could fall. I smooth it with my thumbnail, then stop. Enough, it will burn the same. I step to the window. The star is lower now, framed by a different part of the sash. The night has aged around it without drama. I add another pencil dot to the sill, watching the small constellation grow. 4 marks now, then 5. A quiet map of the night's passage, each point a choice to wait, to not hurry, to let time be what it is rather than what I want it to become. The sky beyond is still deep blue-black, but some essential quality has shifted. I rest my forehead against the glass. The cold is pleasant, a clean contrast to the warmth at my back. When I return to the bench, sleepiness arrives not as a demand but as a softening. My shoulders drop. My jaw unclenches. I had not noticed it was clenched. The room feels cooler, or perhaps my skin feels warmer from the burner's constant glow. I take a sip of water from a cup on the bench, swallowing slowly. The water tastes clean and slightly metallic, the flavor of the building's pipes. I set the cup down carefully, avoiding sound. The tapers are smooth now, their surfaces beginning to take on a satin sheen. I hold one up to the lamplight and see a faint translucence at the edges, the layering visible as subtle variations in density, light trapped in wax. The catalog impulse returns, stronger now in my fatigue. How many more dips? How much time left? Should I speed this up? The thought carries an old urgency, a need to know the endpoint before I've arrived. I notice it more carefully this time. The star outside doesn't hurry. The wax cools at its own pace. I can choose to match that or fight it. I dip the first taper, but my hand moves too quickly. The motion sends ripples across the pot's surface, and when I lift the wick, the coating is uneven, thicker on one side, a visible drip forming where excess gathered. I hang it anyway and watch the flaw settle into the wax as it cools, a small imperfection that will be permanent now, part of this candle's particular story. I pause before dipping the second taper. The urge to rush has shown itself, left its mark. I can feel the difference between choosing patience and performing it. I lower the second wick slowly, deliberately, feeling for the steadiness beneath the tiredness. The coat goes on evenly this time. When I hang it, I look at both tapers side by side, one perfect in its accumulation, one carrying the evidence of a hurried moment. Both will burn, both will give light. The imperfection doesn't undo the hours of careful work before it. Something in my chest loosens slightly, recognizing this. I step to the window and add another dot. The star is there, having moved again in its patient arc. 6 marks now on the sill, small graphite witnesses. The sky has begun its subtle shift. Not lighter yet, but less absolute in its darkness. A softening at the edges, like fabric held to distant light. My reflection in the glass is faint, ghostly, barely there. Behind it, the workbench glows in its small pool of lamplight. The tapers hang like pale sentinels. I watch this doubled scene, the dark outside, the warm inside, both present in the same pain, and feel no need to choose between them. The dipping continues. Each cycle familiar now, my hands finding their rhythm without thought. The wax temperature holds steady. I adjust the flame only once, a tiny turn to maintain the perfect melt. The tapers are nearing their final shape. I judge them by feel, by heft, by the way they look like candles I have seen in shops but somehow more specific. They carry the record of these particular dips, this particular night, the steady rhythm of my hands and the star's slow drift, the one flawed coat that I chose to accept rather than scrape away and redo. 2 more dips smooth any remaining unevenness. The wax flows like honey now, thick and golden under the lamp. I lift each taper slowly, letting the last drips fall back in their own time. The surface cools quickly, turning from shine to soft matte. I know there is one more dip left. The knowing is quiet, not urgent. I step to the window and the star is low, almost touching the frame's bottom edge. Dawn is not here, but it is near enough to change the quality of darkness. The sky has shifted from deep blue-black to a softer gray-blue, the color of cooled wax held to light. My pencil dots mark the star's journey, a small arc of lead that traces nothing but time passing in its own measure, indifferent to my schedules and finish lines. 7 small marks. I rest my palm against the glass and feel the cold again, sharper now as the outside air anticipates morning. The final dip is deliberate. I lower each taper into the wax with the same slow steadiness as the first, as all the ones between. The wax coats evenly, a last thin skin over the accumulated layers beneath. I lift them, watch the excess drip away, hang them for the final time. The weight is satisfying in my hand, substantial but not heavy. The candles have become what they were always going to become, shaped by repetition and patience, and the steady waiting between each layer, marked by one imperfect coat that speaks more truth than flawlessness could. I do not adjust them. They are what they are. They will burn. I let them cool fully now, giving them longer than needed. The room settles into its deepest quiet. The burner still hums softly beneath the pot. The wax inside has begun to film over, the surface tension creating a thin skin. I turn off the flame. The sudden absence of its small sound is noticeable, a pocket of silence where steady noise had been. The pot ticks softly as it cools, metal contracting in infinitesimal increments. When the tapers are fully cool, I lift them from the rack one at a time. They are smooth in my palm, their warmth now purely theoretical, a memory of heat trapped deep in the core. The surface is satin, not glossy, the color of pale honeycomb. I set them upright on the bench and find the wick trimmer, a small brass tool shaped like a bird's beak. I trim each wick to the same length, a precise snip that feels ceremonial without being dramatic. The trimmed ends are soft and slightly fuzzy, the cotton ready to catch flame. I brush away the small nubs of wick that fall, then tidy the work surface slowly. A few stray crumbs of wax get wiped away with a cloth. The brass pot sits cooling, its interior filmed over with solidified gold. I line the finished tapers side by side on the windowsill, just beneath my constellation of pencil dots. The sky beyond is letting go of stars. My bright reference point is still there, but fainter now, washed by a rising light that has no source yet, just a general lifting of darkness. The horizon has not yet caught fire, but the deep black has thinned to charcoal, then to slate. I watch the slow fade, following the star's drift past its final dot. The marks remain on the sill, a record of waiting made visible, proof that time passed without being counted. I strike a match. The sound is sharp in the soft room, a small violence of friction and phosphorus. The flame springs up, yellow and eager. I touch it to the wick of the imperfect taper first, and it catches immediately, the cotton accepting the fire without hesitation. The flame steadies after a moment, finding its height, its shape. It burns clean and still, a clear yellow point that does not waver in the motionless air. I watch it for a long moment, then look past it through the window where my star has faded into the coming morning, invisible now but still there, still marking the sky's patient turning. The candle burns beside 7 pencil dots on the sill. The sky brightens past the glass, the small persistent light and the arriving day. Both true, both present, stillness that asks nothing, completion that needs no announcement. I rest my hand on the cool windowsill, fingertip touching the first dot I made hours ago, and let the night finish its work. Thank you for spending this time with the Night Sky Reader. May your night be peaceful. Until next time, rest well.